Record on this computer. Welcome to Advanced Toastmasters Online. I'm also going to post the agenda in our chat box, so you'll be able to just click on that link, and you should be able to see what the rules are for today. We have 2 speakers and evaluators, table topics session, and as well as our evaluation session. But let me get started by sharing. I'm going to read this. I can't share screens. I'm on 2 different computers today. So we are an advanced Toastmasters club, which supports Maverick leaders in creating an impact by providing advanced feedback on online presentations and leadership skills, and discovering what it means to be out-of-the-box, innovative leaders. That's our mission of our club. And yeah, so in order, since you've not been in a Toastmasters, an online Toastmasters meeting before, Vanda, I'll just share a couple of things that while the Toastmaster or the speaker or one of the evaluators is speaking, you might want to mute your own microphone. That way there's no feedback.
Okay.
And if you choose to leave your seat and you need to leave the room for whatever, if you need to get up to go to the restroom, an emergency happens or whatever, you can stop your video. That way you're not leaving your space unattended, because this is like Toastmasters. We're all on stage the entire meeting, so in order for us to stay in the front of the room, we need to have our cameras on. But if you do need to leave, just turn the camera off.
Okay.
The other thing is there's a chat button at the bottom of the screen, and if you click on that, you can chat individually or to the entire group. But please refrain from doing that while there's a speaker speaking, because it will pop up on the screen and it'll interrupt the flow of their speech. So you can do that in between sections, like after a speaker talks, you can post something in there, or just in between those transition times. Yes, hello.
Okay.
And anything else I'm missing? I don't think so. So we will get started.
Yeah, I will ask my question whenever I find out.
Yeah.
Well, we're missing a second evaluator.
We're missing a second evaluator. I think I can do a second evaluation since I'm doing the Toastmaster, unless somebody else wants to do it. I think everybody has.
Vanda, are you comfortable evaluating a speech?
Not sure.
Well, you'll have an opportunity during our
I will try. Yes.
And we do our meetings just like a regular Toastmasters meeting. So we have a timer, and Kelly McCormick's our timer today. So Kelly, could you unmute yourself and let us know what you're going to be doing as our timer?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. So as the timer, my responsibility is to keep up with how the time is moving along on the speech. Because as we all know in Toastmasters, we look at all the different aspects of the speech and work on them concurrently in general. I have my trusty little timer here. I have my trusty little cards. The speeches today, the main speeches, are going to be 5 to 7 each. Is that correct? And Miss Lori?
Yes, that is correct.
5 to 7. Wonderful, thank you. That means that at 5 minutes, I'm going to put up the green card. At 6 minutes, I'm going to put up the yellow card. Red at 7. If it's table topics, that's a 1 to 2 minute event. 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Enjoy. Back
Yay. To you. Thank you so much. And our first speaker of the day is Lori Whitmore. Well, do we have a grammarian? I don't think we have a grammarian. We're kind of going to maybe, well, Kelly's going to help out with the grammarian role today. And I will just throw out a word that feels appropriate, which is, I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not, but creativity feels like a good word for this time of the year, creativity, and I'm being creative around the holidays, starting to get creative. So we'll throw that in as a word of the day. And Kelly, would you like to share what you'll be doing as the grammarian, as the grammarian?
Well, hello. Thank you, Miss Toastmaster. As the grammarian, my responsibility is to look for both the positive and perhaps the improvable aspects of each person's speech, and that includes in the main speeches as well as the table topic speeches. What I will be looking for is anything that comes up in terms of ahs, ums, fillers, conjunctions that don't necessarily belong, especially if they keep going on and on and on. But I will bring those to you. I also will look for some of those things that are most treasured. And I believe the rabbi is quite good at these, so I'll be looking for them from him as well as everybody else. Enjoy, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. And so our first speaker, like I was mentioning before, is Lori Whitmore. She's a DTM, and Lori's working towards her level 3 in innovative planning path. And today she'll deliver, excuse me, today she'll deliver a speech for the project Know Your Sense of Humor. Lori is working on incorporating more humor into her speeches. The title of this speech today is Our Upcoming Adventure. And the time for this speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Please help me welcome Lori Whitmore. Yay!
Have you ever thought about driving across country? Perhaps taking a journey 3,000 miles across the whole US of A? Maybe doing this in an RV? Some may have had that dream. Not me. I've been content flying from airport to airport to various places in the US. Camping? Not really my style. My husband, Rick, and I live in a 5-bedroom colonial on 3 floors. We each have our own home office. We have a music room and a guest room. I am quite comfortable with all this space. Now that we're both no longer taking care of an elderly parent, we have the freedom this year to explore being snowbirds and going away for the winter months. It's not that I mind the cold or the snow, but have you ever seen our driveway? It's a 40-degree angle going down to the house. Our driveway is tolerable in spring, summer, and fall, but it is a bear in the winter. The most logical way to test the waters as a snowbird would be to rent for a year or two before considering buying vacation property. However, there's one really big problem with renting. You can't bring your own bed. I'm one of those people who's ready to come home to sleeping after sleeping 3 nights away from the house. I have an amazingly comfortable mattress in our bedroom. Nothing else can compare. I just cannot get a good night's sleep away from home. Do you know the story of the princess and the pea? Like the princess in the story, I could feel a tiny little hard pea through 20 mattresses. All Rick had to do was mention that with an RV, I could bring my own bed, and I was all set for the idea. Did you know that Rick is a kid at heart? He likes toys, big toys, really big toys, like airplanes, boats, and motorhomes. So when he went looking for an RV, he looked for a huge one. We went to an RV show in Boston this past spring. Rick went straight for the best. A brand new Class A motor coach. It was so luxurious. Lots of kitchen counter space, a spacious bedroom, an electric fireplace, a second bedroom that could be a home office. It even had a built-in dishwasher. Simply gorgeous. Thankfully, we came to our senses and didn't buy it because it cost $300,000. Now, an RV does not appreciate like investment property. Nope. An RV is basically a house on wheels. Bottom line, it's a vehicle that depreciates. My resourceful husband started looking on Craigslist for a Class A motor coach, and eventually he found one, 15 years old, with low mileage in excellent condition. And we went for it. We bought it. We replaced the love seat and planned to buy a new mattress. Now, this RV did not come with a built-in dishwasher. However, Rick offered to be the dishwasher, so we're all set. We went to buy a comfortable mattress for the RV, only to find out it's a custom size, something called an RV queen, which is 5 inches shorter than a standard queen-size mattress. Now, most RVers go to an RV store, look at these little 2-foot by 2-foot cubes of a mattress, press on it with their hands, and make a decision on what they want for a bed. Not this princess and the pig. I need to be able to sprawl out and lie down on it and make sure it's comfortable. Fortunately, we were able to find a mattress in a mattress store and order a custom size for the RV. So I ended up with the most comfortable mattress anyone could hope for. For our first winter as snowbirds this year, I was looking at a map of the United States that depicted where snowbirds go. Basically, the bottom third of the entire US. I noticed an ad at the bottom of the page that caught my eye. Catalina RV Spa RV Resort. Spa? Spa? That certainly caught my eye. I quickly clicked on the ad and found that this is the most amazing RV resort in Palm Springs, California, with a 90-degree hot mineral pool. Yes, that's the one for me. Oh, unfortunately, there's been a new development in our plan that just presented itself yesterday. My employer would need to spend $10,000 to get set up for doing business in California in order to pay me to work from home in California. We already have employees that live in Tampa, Florida. So if we were to go to Florida, it would be easy for my employer. Thankfully, we have some flexibility that we can take our house on wheels to anywhere where we can get a reservation. One thing I know for sure, we will be somewhere warm this winter where I won't need this extra vest. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lori, for that wonderful and enjoyable speech on your adventure, our upcoming adventure. And our next speaker for today, can you hear me? Okay. All right. Let me see if, all right. Our next speaker for today is Trisha Grow. And Trisha's speech is one that she's preparing for an upcoming contest. And I didn't see that I had an introduction for her speech, but it may be there. But I know that she's wanting some feedback on her speech for her upcoming contest, so please pay attention. Think about anything that you might be able to help her with and give her feedback so she can improve this for a contest. Maybe we'll see her in Paris next year. Please help me welcome Trisha Grove.
Have you ever felt like you were trapped in a vicious circle, just going around and around without making any progress, not one step forward, and even worse, going backwards? Well, I certainly have felt that in my life, and I think it all began with the day of my birth. Picture it. It's October 71. And my father's sitting, watching the baseball game. It's not just any baseball game. This is the World Series, folks. This is serious stuff. You don't mess with my dad when he's watching baseball, let alone the World Series. Regardless, my mother, Patricia, comes into the room. David, it's time. Pat, I haven't even watched the first inning. Come on, let me just sit and watch the game a bit. Not even a minute later, my mother rushes back into the room. David, we have to go to the hospital. It's time for the baby. So my father reluctantly got up and took her to the hospital. For many, many hours later, I finally decide to grace this world with my presence. But I can't come out just like any other baby. No. I came into this world backwards. To be completely politically correct about the situation, I was rear facing forward. Yes, I mooned the entire room as I was a breech baby. And as I said before, I tended to live my life this way for quite some time. I'm going to fast forward a bit to kindergarten, where I went to school, met other children my age, and learned my colors and how to share a little bit. But at the end of the year, my teacher pulled my parents aside. I don't think Trisha is ready for first grade. She's too quiet in class. She doesn't participate. So they held me back. Do you understand what this means? I failed kindergarten. I failed kindergarten, people. Can you imagine anyone being able to complete this wonderful, hard, difficult task? Well, yet here I am. Now you know someone who managed this feat. But this was only my first failure. I had another one 4 years later. A few years later, when I was in 5th grade, I was also held back. However, this proved to be a blessing in disguise, because at the beginning of my 2nd year of 5th grade, they took me for some testing and discovered that I was dyslexic. Now, dyslexia is a learning disability where people tend to see things differently. In my case, I saw things backwards. For example, you might see cat as C-A-T. I saw cat as T-A-C. It still spelled cat and meant cat to me, but I saw it completely different than everyone else. I saw it backwards. And this is where my learning problems all stem from. Once they determined that this was my issue, they actually sent me to some special training where I relearned how to learn. And once I learned the ways of looking at things differently, I no longer was going backwards. I started making progress and going forwards. I attacked books like they were going out of style. I devoured them. I couldn't get enough. I would read 4 or 5 books at the same time. And I could tell you what was going on in each book and not get them confused because I was just such a huge sponge. I just wanted to soak it all in. That finally made sense to me. Now you might be wondering, why are you sharing this? Because you most likely were not 4 backwards. And you probably don't have a learning disability. However, I guarantee at some point in your life, you will find yourself in that vicious circle, going around and around without making one step of forward progress. I'm here today to encourage you to reach out for help. Look for someone who's accomplished the thing you want to and ask for help. You'll be amazed when you get that hand up that you'll get out of that circle, start moving forward, and being able to make progress in your life. So I hope that you will take this word of encouragement from someone who was living their life backwards and now faces forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Trisha. And just letting everyone know, her title of her speech was Living Life Backwards, in case you didn't figure that one out. So this next portion of our meeting, we're going to go straight into our topics, table topics portion of the meeting. And in order to help us do that, I'm going to invite Rick Weiner, DTM, our table topics master, to join us and to tell us what he is going to do as our table topics master and help us roll that part in. Rick.
Thank you so very much, Madam Toastmaster. And it is so much fun to be here today. This is a creative time of year. People are doing new things. We're going on a journey. Trisha's practicing a speech for a contest. I mean, it's a fun time. Also, the next couple weeks we have Thanksgiving. That, to me, is the beginning of the season. Not starting at Halloween, but starting at Thanksgiving. So let's think of what we're thankful for. You might be thankful for just getting up in the morning. You might be thankful for your spouse or your partner. Or maybe it's we're thankful for new things that come our way. What I'd like to ask the first person, what is it that you are most thankful for that's different than everybody else? Something that means something to you more so than to anyone else. Kelly, could you answer that question?
Well, you know, Mr. Rick, I would love to answer that question for you. All right, so what am I thankful for that others wouldn't be thankful for? I want you to think of what we're doing right here. There was a time in my life, 100 years ago, give or take a year, when I lived in Tennessee. And it felt like when I moved from Brooklyn to Tennessee, even though I was young, that I went into the middle of nowhere. I had a lot of things I could do. I could ride my pony around the new farm because that's what you do when you're from Brooklyn. Or I could ride my bicycle all across the property. But there was no way to feel connected to others. But there's something very, very cool about where technology has come. I can imagine if I went back to 1973 and I'm 5 and I'm sitting there looking at like, what can you do? And I got to Tennessee at 9. So even at 9, what if like I could have felt connected with others from not just like, doesn't even have to be around the world. What if it was just people that I knew, just my family members, just some friends that I might have left back in Brooklyn? Can you imagine how lucky we are to be sitting here and then to have you join us and to see who we are? This opportunity didn't exist until the last probably decade-ish. And for some of us, it might have been less than that. mean, technology is an amazing, amazing tool. We all have a video phone. This would be the equivalent of having somebody show up holographically compared to what our experience was back then when. So Rick, I am super, super thrilled that I have the opportunity to say thank you, Mr. Table Topics. Back to you.
Thank you, Kelly. That was a beautiful speech, and I really enjoyed what you had to say. Love to see that pony. Creativity. Thanksgiving brings lots of creativity. Some people bring out their creativity in the foods they make, the desserts, the pastries, the turkey, all different types of things that we do for Thanksgiving. In your life, what kind of creativity do you bring to the table? Doug, can you answer that one?
Thank you, Toastmaster Rick, for asking me to bring my creativity to the table. Now, for the Thanksgiving table, I can't say that I'm terribly creative. For one thing, my father-in-law tends to arrange Thanksgiving for the family, and we go out to one of the nice hotels and do their buffet, which has a wonderful spread. I guess I can be creative in what I put on my plate, but I do bring that back to the table. But what other things have I brought to the table? Well, as a Canadian living in the United States, I get to bring some interesting foods that Americans don't see so often. I've made numerous times, more than I can count, I've made Nanaimo bars and I've been selling them. These are a beautiful 3-layer chocolate and custard bar that have been voted in a national poll as Canada's favorite dessert. And then I come to the United States and discover that, generally speaking, Americans have never even heard of them. So that was definitely a shift, but I brought the recipe with me and I can make them. Another great sweet is called butter tarts, which are little tarts. They can have pecans and raisins and a sweet, gooey, buttery filling that's just delicious. And once again, you don't see them much around here. Although pecan pie does come close in a larger version. So these are just a few sweet treats that I can bring to the table. And when it comes to Nanaimo bars, and you do got to be creative and able to pronounce it properly, I've developed about 10 different flavors that makes it more creative, more fun, and more delicious. Back to you.
Thank you, Doug. Great speech. And Lori's dad, I just have to put a sidebar, got a bread making machine many years ago. This goes many years ago. And when he made his first loaf of bread, he was living in New Jersey and Lori was living in Boston. He FedExed a piece of bread to her, one piece of bread. I'm expecting one of those nanobots to be delivered to my house here. That sounds phenomenal. Okay. Next question. We take it for granted, as you said, Doug, you're from Canada, living in the US, although Canada is part of America, so I would consider you an American as well. But part of USers, we look at Thanksgiving as everyday life. This is what we've had since we were born. I don't know how many Thanksgivings, I know how many I've experienced, but each of you have experienced because coming from different places. What is it about Thanksgiving that you enjoy celebrating now? Vidna, could you answer that one?
So thanks for asking me. So I just last year came here and I have celebrated only one Thanksgiving celebration. So first of all, I saw snowfall first time here in Columbus. So last year when I was here, I enjoyed a lot, like the snowfall, and also I cooked some new recipes here. And now the coming Thanksgiving will be my second Thanksgiving celebration here. So I'm just thinking like how and what I will do here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering that question.
Hmm.
And welcome to celebrate your next Thanksgiving here.
Yeah, sure.
Simple Thanksgiving question. Chicken, turkey, brisket, turkey, chicken. I like turkey. Chicken, turkey, Dawn, what do you prefer?
Oh, I actually like ham. It's one of my favorite things to have at Thanksgiving. Madam Mr. Table Topics Master.
Can you elaborate on Thanksgiving a little bit, please?
Yes, I can. So every year for Thanksgiving, we have kind of a potluck. So someone's in charge of something every year to bring in. We all go over to my brother's house, and my uncle makes the big turkey. And there's like a big deal about, the men all gathering around who's going to cut the turkey and who's got the biggest knife and who can cut the best. And I choose to go for the already made by somebody else honey baked ham, which is typically what is brought in, because they do such a good job, and it's already pre-sliced. It's like that spiral sliced, I guess, like the honey baked ham, and you just pull it right off of the bone and just take a bite, and it just melts in your mouth, and it's so good. So my favorite chicken, turkey, ham is my favorite. Thank you very much for asking that question.
Thank you, Dawn. Of course, I wouldn't think of ham at all. That didn't even come into my process. All right. Madam Toastmaster, we have time for a little bit more? All right. As we're talking about Thanksgiving, which is just around the corner, what is it about this time of the year that gets you excited? Is it Thanksgiving? Is it Christmas, Hanukkah? Is it New Year's? What is it about this time of the year that really gets your juices going? Tricia, could you answer that one?
Thank you very much, Rick. Well, my answer is probably not going to be echoed by anyone else here. What gets me really excited when we're getting close to Thanksgiving is that I know 3 weeks afterwards that I'll be heading to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the reason that I'm making this 3-hour trip is for a 3-day, 12 hours of board gaming at a convention called PAX Unplugged. This will be the 3rd year that I will be attending this event, and I just got my badge in the mail this week. And I'm so excited. I cannot wait to go play games for 3 days, for 12 hours a day, and just play games. I'm very, very excited. So I'm pretty confident that not anyone else in this room has this excitement. So I'm glad that I do.
Thank you so much, Tricia. I love that answer. So much out of the box. Perfect. Something that was great for me 30 years ago and thereabouts was I got to be a kid again. When we had children, I could play on the floor with the kids. I'd watch cartoons. And I had an excuse. I was keeping my children company. But of course, I loved it. What is it? Children, grandchildren, you being a kid? What is it about the excitement of being with younger people, or maybe it's just yourself being younger, that really gets you, that you really love to do? Lori, please unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master. I'm not even sure I understand the question. What gets me excited about having fun with children or not?
Are you a child at heart? Is it being with grandchildren, with children? What is it?
I think what I want to talk about is what I like about the holidays. And that's really having the different holiday foods. I mean, one of the ways we celebrate different Jewish holidays throughout the year is eating foods that are related to those historical events. So for Hanukkah, I like making potato latkes, potato pancakes, with homemade applesauce that we do from scratch, and sharing it with other people. And I also enjoy buying presents for now our grandchildren, because I enjoy seeing their delight in tearing open the paper and seeing what's inside. But I think another thing I like during the holiday period is that we make extra effort to be with family. And that could be on Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Hanukkah, or just during that whole period. That maybe it's a 5-week period from Thanksgiving through New Year's, that we make time for family. And I like being with my kids and grandchildren during that time, especially if they make time to be with me. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you so much, Lori. Sidebar, yesterday, one of my closest friends, a priest, wanted to go out for lunch. What did he want? A kosher deli. Who knows? No ham, but we did have pastrami on rye and latkes. All right, my friends. Well, I believe we all got a chance to participate in Table Topics. I love this session. Madam Toastmaster, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciated your enthusiasm in being our topics master today. And at this point, we're going to go straight into the evaluation portion of the meeting. And I'm going to just serve as that general evaluator and invite Doug as our first evaluator of our meeting to do his evaluation of Lori Whitmore, and just also to remind him that we do the round robin at the end so he can lead that portion. So please help me welcome Doug Thiessen.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Lori was working on her project, or on Pathways Level 3. Her project was know your sense of humor. So the objective for Lori was develop a collection of humorous stories and present a speech that includes humor. I think that she did that quite well. Overall, the speech was funny. I was smiling throughout. I quite enjoyed the speech. I noticed that she was using little twists that can be funny. She opened asking us about travel and camping, and having us picture camping in an RV, and then took a twist and said, nope, not me, I like to fly. So I thought that was a great twist. She was using exaggeration, plays on words, particularly with, okay, the RV doesn't have a built-in dishwasher, but there's my husband who will be the dishwasher. So that was also nicely done. One of the other things that I noticed was her facial expressions. And on video, I think this is a great thing because we're limited in the kinds of gestures that we're able to do. But when she was talking about being able to use the driveway, given that it's so steep, you could see her, kind of raising her eyebrows and tilting her head to emphasize what she was saying, particularly about not being able to use it well in winter. And so I think that was particularly commendable. I would challenge Lori, though, in the overall structure of the speech. I never really had a good sense of what direction the speech was going to go in. The title was about our upcoming adventure. She opened the speech talking about how when she travels, she likes to fly, but most of the speech was actually about buying an RV and the process of choosing the RV and how they look, and particularly about the bed. And then right at the end, she talked about the possibility of going to California, but then said, no, I can't actually do the work from home that I usually do, so we'll have to find another place, maybe Florida. And so I think I wanted to challenge Lori on just the overall structure and organization of the speech. So that's something that could be worked on to make it better. However, I do want to say I really enjoyed the speech. I thought it was very entertaining, and Lori definitely knows how to use humor.
Yes.
So overall, nicely done.
Oh, awesome. Are you going to then lead us in the
Of course, yes. I
you.
remembered when I started, and then I forgot when I finished. To call for others. Who else would like to add some feedback on Lori's speech? Okay, Dawn.
I can go ahead and add. I really enjoyed Lori's speech, always do. I think she is a natural humorist and has an ability to capture the funny things in life. And also, I really enjoyed the way she exaggerated, and probably not so much of an exaggeration, her princessness. So I enjoyed that, and getting to know, not that it was hidden, that she is truly a princess. And I liked also the story about the princess and the pea. I knew what it was, but also I thought maybe there could have been a little bit more context for people who might not have known what that was, what that story is. I think you did it well, though. It worked. Of course, I wanted to go to the Catalina spa with you because I was there. And I enjoyed how you played with your relationship with getting the RV, and it was kind of like this thing going on in the background of like you're not really excited about it, and then you were sharing the stories about how your husband kind of enticed you to get excited about it. So I liked that. So that was my feedback. I thought it flowed really well, and I was entertained. So back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Dawn. Who else would like to give Lori some feedback? Seeing no hands, I will return the screen to our general evaluator then.
Thank you. So our timer asked how long do we do for the group part, the round robin, and it's typically at the top of my mind. It's not. So do we?
I seem to recall the regular 3-minute evaluation plus another 3 minutes, maybe for round robin.
Yeah, and we don't have to go that long. It's just like that's how long we give it. So we definitely.
I was thinking it was 5 minutes total, but maybe
for
5
the round robin,
minutes, which would be along the lines of what Doug was saying: 3 minutes for the evaluation and another 3 for the round robin.
Okay. So thank you, Lori.
And if you don't mind, I'll do 2, 2.5, and 3 then on the group portion.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Sounds great. Thank you for being on top of that and asking additional questions as we needed. So I am going to go into my evaluation of Trisha's speech. I've heard this speech before, so I recognized that it was different than the last time I heard it. So there's been a lot that has already been developed. This is, she's using finishing up her competent communicator, one of many probably competent communicator manuals. And this speech was about living life backwards. And I'm going to give you some specific feedback. Trisha, I'm going to give her some specific feedback. Take it or leave it. But I had a couple things that were going on in my mind as I was listening to this speech. One is I wondered, is this a linear speech or is it a circular speech? Because when you're talking about going forward or backwards, I tend to think it's on a line. And then you talked about going around and around and around. And for me, there was a little bit of a, like my brain just wanted to know, well, what am I doing? Am I going straight or am I going in a circle? So maybe stick to one direction, either make the circular thing being a going forward and backwards, or make the going backwards, meaning like having it feel like more of a circular backwards instead of a linear thing. Very subtle differences. The other thing that's kind of on that same line is you started out with this story. I love your first story, and I appreciate the fact that you shortened it up a little bit, because I remember the first time it was really a big chunk of your speech. And this time I liked the length of that speech. You're beginning the story, but I also felt like I wanted more story, because the front of it was so story rich that I would love to have had story being such a big part of it through the end of it. That's my two pieces. So is it a story or is it a directive? And I do like the way you ended up with the call to action to ask for people for help. I thought that was good. Maybe feeling into how could it be more of a story. I think maybe there's some opportunity there. And I will be complete with my portion of that evaluation. I'm going to ask for any other feedback, because I know I gave very specific. I'd love to hear some more. I loved the speech. I loved it this first time, and I look forward to hearing it again. And Lori has her hand up. So Lori, go ahead.
There are several. Trisha, I was listening for kind of punchline kinds of things, or just very effective phrases that you used in your speech. So I loved when you said that you mooned the entire room. I thought that was great. And your gesture for coming out breach. I also liked when you talked about being a huge sponge, soaking it all in. One thing I noticed, and I like the humor about failing kindergarten, but one thing that I thought you could improve upon related to that was saying, you use the word wonderful related to failing kindergarten, and I don't think that that's the best adjective or adverb, whatever. So I think finding a different word other than calling it wonderful would be better. I don't have a suggestion for what that would be. And also, I was kind of wondering, just big picture about the whole speech. Is there a connection between being a breech birth and dyslexia in general? Are you just drawing that connection for humor in your speech, which is fine, and I think it's working. I didn't know if there really is any connection between the two in the population. If there is such a connection, to incorporate that. And if there isn't such a connection, that's fine to not say anything about it. So that was just another thought I had. But overall, I think that I think it's a good contest speech, and I think you deliver it really well.
Thank you, Lori. And anyone else? Doug, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks. Trisha, I thought you did a very good speech. I quite enjoyed it. I was also going to comment on the gesture for the breech birth, that especially on screen when you brought your hands right up to the camera worked extremely well. On stage, I think it would work well too, just differently. I also like that you're talking about going round and round, and then you talked about being backwards and you went in the other direction. I thought that was effective. Now, as something to challenge you with, and this certainly is a pet peeve of mine, but we are dealing with an international audience. there is really nothing worldly about the World Series. It is simply the Major League Baseball championships. And apart from one team in Canada, it is a strictly United States thing. And you might not want to refer to it specifically as the World Series for a global audience. I always think of it as the Major League Championship. And I see our time is up, so that was just one little point. Although there was one other thing that I do want to, probably with practice, you can improve in that I noticed a number of times you were kind of laughing at yourself as you're trying to speak, and it's not effective. Something that I think would be smoother if you were just speaking. But overall, great. Well done. Thanks.
Good note, Doug, because I will have to remember that for myself, because I like to laugh at myself when I'm speaking. I crack myself up sometimes. So. All right, so we are finished with our evaluation. I think the meeting went really well today. This is my general evaluation portion of the meeting. Our meeting went really well. I love it when we have prepared speakers and evaluators who come in and show up, and everyone gave great feedback for the speakers. Even if you were not in the evaluation role, you did that. If you have more things that you would like to say to those speakers, you can do that in the chat box. You can send them privately, or you can send them to everyone. But you can go ahead and do that. And we do have a question from Vanda. So go ahead. What is your query?
Yeah, so my query is like how this program works. Like in case I have to join this Toastmasters. So like previously when I joined Toastmasters, I simply make my profile on toastmasters.com, and they provide me some mentor who provide me some instruction, like from where you have to start your this learning paths or all stuff. So how this all work here? So could you give me a little bit of detailed information?
Yes, so I will let you know that our club is an advanced club. So typically what we want everybody in our club to have done is 2 of their regular Toastmasters level 1. So they're pathways, like two levels within pathways in order to be a member of our club. However, if you're really interested in joining our club, you can always basically ask us to give it, an evaluation, and we can go back to our board and ask whether or not we would love to have you. So, but that would definitely be something that we would discuss. And then yes, you would, if it all went forward for you, there are other online clubs also, just to let you know that we could.
No, so my question is like, I'm just looking like there I have paid something or some.
Yeah, there would be
a way here also, or I just have to came here on Zoom, or I have to participate like I participated today.
So you wouldn't have to pay for Zoom. So help me understand, Lori,
No.
do you have an?
Like when initially I joined my Toastmasters, there
Right.
I paid like, I don't know how much for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Okay.
Dues for the club. So
Yeah.
how much have you completed in Toastmasters now?
So it was like I went there for 2 or 3 months and it was completed.
Did you do speeches?
So I gave there my icebreaker speech, but they told me initially like they provide me one mentor who could help me, but they never gave me any response, like feedback for my that speech. So that is the reason I never went there. So I'm just looking, so like I have to just join here online, like today I have joined and I have to give my speech, or there is some other process, like I have to fill some form or something else. Is there any need or not?
So yes, you would, in order to give a speech and get feedback and or get connected with another mentor within our club, you would have to join our club as either a second club or just restarting your membership. And you could do that. And there's other online clubs that let you know, because ours may or may not be the perfect fit for you. But you would have to pay extra dues. Our dues for our club, because each club has its own dues, like its own membership fees. Our membership fees here are basic, meaning whatever Toastmasters International charges is what we charge. We don't have an additional charge above that. So it's $45 a month. They made all of the clubs the same. So $45, not a month,
for 6 months.
6 months. So it's $45 for the 6 months. And then, of course, you would get feedback and mentoring, and you would have evaluations like we have here. That is very unique to our club. Not very many clubs have that kind of feedback.
And in terms of the education program, your profile at Toastmasters.org would be the same. You'd have that same profile, and it would link to the clubs that you are currently a member of. And you simply continue on the same pathway that you've started, but you can do the projects at other clubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, by joining here, you do speech projects here, and we would evaluate you and send you some written feedback as well. I've already emailed Lori my written evaluation. We do that through our website.
Okay.
And so you get that feedback and progress through your Pathways projects that way. And you can do that at one club or at multiple clubs. It's your choice within Toastmasters.
And if I'm not using any pass and I'm just coming here and joining these videos, so I will be as a guest and I will give my speech here or not?
Probably not. So, but here's what I want to say at this point. Like, if you're willing to stay after our meeting, because I want to finish our meeting, then a couple of us will be able to stay on afterwards and talk to you about some of the different options, because there's just more options, I think, for you, and we can help you get connected to something that really works for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then we'll just stay on afterwards. So it'll be like maybe 5 minutes after 1 o'clock. So let me finish, close up our meeting, and then we can talk to you privately afterwards.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, yes, so here we are, we're closing up. And we are, like I said, great meeting, everyone. Kelly, would you like to do a quick timers report?
I can. I'll do timer and grammarian at the same time, if that's okay.
Right.
Yes.
Great. All right. So Lori, 6:57. Trisha, 5:57. Table topics. Rick, you got like 35 creativities, but we're not going to talk about that. Kelly, 1:58. Doug, 2:08. Vandna, 40 seconds. Dawn, 1:17. Trisha, 1:07. Lori, 1:25. Doug, 3:02 on your eval. Dawn, 2:15 plus 3:36 on the group. Few things I want to throw out there on the grammarian. And Vanda, I'm just thinking what I will do. The is not needed. Dawn, you hit it. Nervous laughter came out about 5 times during your table topics. I just wanted to add that because I feel like that's still a filler. Lori, you said one sentence where you said presents for now our grandchildren. You sort of popped now down into a phrase. And Doug, you used a but that was fairly connective, but it was kind of a stop. You might want a yes and kind of feel like comedians do when they're doing improv. And then raise your hand if you said creative or creativity. It was Doug for 1 and 35 for Rick. There you go. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that's the end of our meeting. I'm going to ask everyone, since I want to honor everyone's time constraints. Lori?
I just wanted to mention that I thought Doug shared a piece of wisdom with us during his group evaluation for Trisha. I think all of us can work on humor. And I thought that the tip he made in probably what comedians do is keeping a straight face while the audience laughs. I thought that was a really valuable tip for all of us, to allow the audience to laugh at our jokes and for us not to lead them in that. So I'm going to remember that. Thank you, Doug.
Well, thank you. I think you were doing a great job on that front already, Laurie.
I'm just saying that I think that's a really valuable tip.
Yep. Thank you.
I do too, but man, I find so much enjoyment out of laughing at myself. So we'll see. Okay, so do I have a Toastmaster who would like to take on the role of Toastmaster for next month's meeting?
Do you want to stop the video for now?
Yes, thank you so much. Let me get that